Live.
Matty B, LSU has 2 commitments on board with Jalen Cook and Jordan Wright out of the transfer portal, both signed on Thursday as we're in this podcast. Matt McMahon and his staff aren't done yet. They still got a lot of targets out there, but for Cook and Wright to be on board now, that's a good starting point. And LSU is still targeting some Baton Rouge names to join the program as well.
Hey, Billy, I'm doing great. I appreciate Joe's conversation. I put on my Spurs championship hat since Shea said I haven't won a champion. We haven't won a championship since '99. But yes, let's start with the two commits, Jalen Cook, Jordan Wright. Obviously, the two names here. It was actually announced officially from LSU today. Obviously, it's been done for quite a bit now, but Jalen Cook. Dynamic guard out of Tulane, 20 points per game, back-to-back years, all AAC first team player, top 15 player in the portal by On3. Really checks a huge box for this team because we talked about last year's team a lot. It was like Juice Hill was the only real point guard that you could look to and be like, okay, that's like a prototypical point guard that can run the offense and can get them into their stuff. But he was kind of out of his element. I thought the SEC was a little bit too big for him. They get Jalen Cook, who obviously was at LSU's first year, Tulane back-to-back years, looking for the step back up in competition. And, I mean, he has the ball in his hands a lot, but, man, he is just so elite with the ball. I mean, with the way he can shoot it, the way he can dribble, the way he can set up the offense. And I'm interested to see how they build around him. Obviously, Jordan Wright was the first commit out of Vanderbilt, 6'6", wing. I call him a wing. Some people might say guard, but 6'6" wing out of Vanderbilt. Last year of college basketball, did a great job building up that Vanderbilt program with Jerry Stackhouse. And so he comes over here, knows what he's doing, knows what he's looking for, knows how to compete in the SEC. We'll be interested to see how his shooting numbers improve, 31% from 3 last year. But I think a big thing with him is the defensive end. This team is going to need some wing defenders out there. So you get him and Tyrell Ward. That's a pretty good combination on the wing.
Yeah, no question about it. And look, before we look ahead to who's probably coming this weekend and who is on the radar, LSU did have 2 well thought of big men on campus. You spoke with one of them, Wofford transfer BJ Mack. They also had Nevada center and one-time Texas Longhorn Will Baker on campus. Those 2 guys, top targets for Matt McMahon and his staff, both at very different places in their transfer recruitments, it seems like.
Yeah, BJ Mack, talked to him. He has laid out his schedule for visits over the entire month of April. He has the commitment date of May 4th. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes throughout the coming weeks. I believe it's Alabama, Iowa, South Carolina, and Arkansas are the other 4 teams in the mix here. So plenty of competition for LSU. Arkansas just picked up its 4th transfer player today. I don't know how many more spots they're going to take. BJ Mack at Alabama feels like a weird fit. So I think they have a real shot here. I think they're going to be in contention. He's from North Carolina, so the South Carolina pool maybe could be there. But I think they're in a good spot for BJ Mack, obviously still with, 3 weeks in his recruitment. Will Baker, Nevada, like you said, he's an interesting one because he is a true 5-man, which they're going to need, especially with Sean Phillips entering the portal. He can score the ball at a really high level. He's an experienced guy. He was really highly touted coming out of high school in Austin, going to Texas. And, it would give them a little bit of a scoring punch at the 5, which obviously KJ had last year. They're looking to replace that either with BJ, with Will Baker, maybe with both. So, yeah, that's kind of the outlook for those 2 right now. I think Will Baker is someone a lot of people have said LSU's in a really good spot with. I tend to agree with it, but I don't think they're done looking at the center spot yet.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And look, we transition into a guy who Baton Rouge area folks probably know well if you keep up with the high school basketball ranks. Carlos Stewart, who's from the Dunham School. He was out at Santa Clara. He knows Jordan Wright well. They were obviously both Dunham School products. He's now one of the top targets after entering the transfer portal, and that backcourt retooling could not be done with him being a Baton Rouge guy. LSU sits in a good spot from what we're hearing. What do you see out of him when you turn on the tape?
Yeah, 15 points per game. Santa Clara coming out of the West Coast Conference, a very, very capable team. I believe they came in third or fourth in the conference last year behind Gonzaga and St. Mary's. So obviously, capable competition. This is not any different really to me from Jalen Cook coming from Tulane. Very similar competition levels to the AAC and the West Coast Conference. Um, I think he's 6'1". You know, they already have Jalen Cook there. I'm interested to see how they would use him if they can get him on campus, how they want to play it, because the backcourt, obviously, with Jalen Cook being the way that he plays at 6 foot, Carlos Stewart being the guy who could score the ball efficiently, can handle the ball as well. So you have some options at the guard spot there, but at the same time, you know, how many of these guards can you accumulate? How many do you really want? Which I'm sure we'll talk about another one soon, but that's going to be the interesting thing to me is they're courting a lot of these guards. You know, how many of them do they end up actually taking? But Carlos Stewart, like you said, seems like one that it seems a little bit too obvious for me to
Yeah,
not for them not to get.
no question about that. Mark Abram out of Ole Miss is still an option. He hasn't committed
Yeah.
anywhere just yet. But they're also targeting a guy that, you know, if you guys are subscribers on the Bengal Tiger, you heard about him, probably 2 weeks ago. Joe Girard out of Syracuse, one of the top guards available, top real 3-point shot makers. He is set to take an official visit to LSU this weekend. That's a big one for LSU. We know they need help on the perimeter shooting the basketball.
Yeah, they were under 33% shooting the ball from three last year. I believe like 250th in the country, somewhere around there in 3-point percentage. The offense was obviously not good, but not only were they bad last year at 3-point shooting, KJ Williams was their best 3-point shooter. And obviously he's gone. Then Adam Miller, who wasn't great last year, but at least was capable at times of getting hot, is gone. So really you're only left with Cam Hayes and now Jalen Cook as your only two guys that can really shoot the ball. We'll see what Tyrell Ward becomes. But perimeter shooting is almost not negotiable at this point for Matt McMahon and the staff. You have to find shooters. You have to find a variety of guys that can shoot the ball and can be in different situations. And that's what makes Girard really interesting. I mean, he started 123 games for his career. I mean, 4 straight years of starting at Syracuse. And Syracuse hasn't been, you know, Syracuse of old. I'm not saying that they're a juggernaut, but still, we're talking about a guy that's put up 16 points per game and shot 7 threes per game last year on a 38% clip. I mean, even if he's just whether he's coming off the bench or whether he's starting, he's someone you want on your team. You kind of just figure out the rest from there. And that's what that's what I mentioned with adding all these, you know, smaller guards that can all score the ball. It's kind of like how do they all fit if you get all of them on campus and get them all playing together. That's going to be the interesting thing. But ultimately, this team desperately needs scoring, and Joe Girard, if nothing else, can score the ball. Can score the ball for sure.
And we save the best for last because he is coming off of a championship run.
Yes, he is. Damn
Um,
right.
and I know this one might be emotional for you, but LSU in the mix for another big man, one you're very familiar with out of North
Mhm.
Texas.
Yeah, Abu Usman, out of North Texas, 6'10" center. Um, he's originally from New York, which is what makes this interesting. He started two of his 3 years at North Texas. Really, really good, good player. Kind of back to the basket type post. Good rebounding, good defense. But you look at the other schools that he's been talking to, a lot of them are Big East schools, and that's what makes me kind of hesitant for LSU's chances. I think they're planning on getting him on campus at some point. But I think it will be hard eventually to get him away from the East Coast because I think ultimately entered the transfer portal kind of looking to get a little closer to home. But obviously LSU maybe in the SEC can offer him maybe something that Big East schools can't. So that's the whole thing we'll have to weigh. We'll have to see how that goes. But I don't think they take both Abu and Will Baker. I think that would be maybe asking a lot. But so maybe they try to get one of those two, and maybe he's a backup to Baker or backup option to Baker, and you kind of go from there. But that's kind of how I'm reading it. Big East schools. He's from the East Coast. It'll be interesting to see if they get him on campus how that goes.
Yeah, and he is headed to Seton Hall this week. The rumor is he might end up at LSU next week. So we'll again see how that recruitment pans out, as well as the rest of the transfer portal process for Matt McMahon and his staff. They're working it. They're in contact with a lot of guys. We'll be there to follow it for you guys every step of the way on the BengalTiger.com. So be sure to subscribe to the site and keep hitting that subscribe button to our YouTube channel as well. Doesn't cost you a thing, and you get, some above average commentary and content on your YouTube channel. So appreciate all you guys who have pushed us over 3,500 subscribers on our YouTube channel. We will be back next week with another round of podcasts for you guys. So hope everybody has a great weekend, and we will catch you next time on the Bengal Tiger Podcast. Thanks for listening.